Today, we're going to talk about one of the most sought after celebrities of the Smoky Mountains, the black bear. We'll give you all the places we've had our own spottings and some tips to keep in mind when encountering these popular locals. Welcome to Bear Facts, where we explore the Smoky Mountains one bear fact at a time. Okay, so this video has been in the making for well over 3 years at this point because it took me a while to come up with enough footage to put it together. And the cuteness level will go up to like a 10. And Oliver is going to take front and center stage and help us find these best places in the Smoky Mountains that we have learned about. I'm sure there's many more that we just haven't encountered ourselves. But basically where bears can be seen and safely observed. And I want to express that last part, safely, and not just for you, but the bears. Gatlinburg and the Smoky Mountain National Park are actually going to be the best places that bears are spotted. Yes, you can find bears all over the place, but Gatlinburg and the Smoky Mountain National Park are going to be the two places where you're going to find the most. There are two main reasons this is the case. One, there's a bountiful amount of food left over by tourists, so bears are scavengers. They're going to be seeking that out. And the other reason is the rules. The Smoky Mountain doesn't allow hunting, so bears are allowed to live as long as they possibly can naturally without the fear of hunters. Between these two factors, the bear population has thrived. It's estimated that about 2,000 bear live in the Smokies, and some of these bears call Gatlinburg home. For the tourists who happen to spot a bear wandering into the lobby of their hotel, this is a fun and amusing experience. For the locals and business owners, this can be a frustrating and serious threat for guests and the bears. So let's look at the best places that you can get a great photo of a bear at the same time being safe and responsible. Now, I'm going to state the most obvious place where we've spotted bears first, and it's the Smoky Mountain National Park. But wait, I'm sure you're thinking, isn't the park like 800 square miles big? I mean, that's not really helpful to say that you can find bears there. It's like, duh, yeah, I know that. But I am going to help narrow it down and be a little bit more specific. Bears can be found about any place that people are. So that narrows it down to most campsites. We've had plenty of spottings as you go up 441 from Gatlinburg, especially close to Chimney Top, which shouldn't surprise anyone since there's a picnic area right over there. The Chimney Tops picnic area is an amazing place to pull over, have a picnic, and rock hop. We love doing that. But because it's a picnic area, the bears tend to hang out there more. Once you head up towards Newfound Gap, the bears aren't seen as often. In fact, we've never seen one at any higher elevation. And if you crest over the top of 441 and head towards Cherokee, you see even less bear. I think because of the elk, the resident that lives on that side of the mountain, they've kind of taken over. So the bear are way more shy in Cherokee. I've never seen one there, and I've even talked to some of the locals. They say it's pretty uncommon to see them on that end. Now, just because it's not as common, that doesn't mean you won't see them. Just be aware that if you're at a campsite, there's a good chance there's a bear lurking around in the background. You just might not spot them. One of the most famous and popular areas in the Smoky Mountains that you can find bear or spot them on a regular basis is in Cades Cove. If you're not familiar with Cades Cove, it's a camping and recreational area inside the Smoky Mountain National Park. It's not exactly easy or quick to get to either. The campground is 27 miles from Gatlinburg and 24 from Pigeon Forge. Well, parts of it anyway. To get there, you need to access the park from 441 and take the Fighting Creek Road from Gatlinburg. If you're in Pigeon Forge, the best way is via 321 to Wares Valley into Townsend, which then you can get into the park. No matter which way you go, it's a long but very scenic drive. Definitely worth your time. Now, there's a lot of reasons people love Cades Cove. One is it has a phenomenal camping ground. Another is they have a great ice cream cone. And the last and probably the most relevant for most people is the 11-mile-long loop road that you can drive your car around and observe the area from the safety and comfort of your car. Though on Wednesdays, they do shut the road down for only pedestrians and bike riders. Cades Cove was once a thriving community where early American settlers lived in the early 1800s. Once the park was established, these residents were forced to move on, and this happened by the 1930s. When you drive around Cades Cove, you'll see buildings, churches, and even cemeteries that have been carefully preserved. Park guests are encouraged to walk through these old buildings and get a sense of what life was for early settlers. But there is one park resident that wasn't forced to leave, and that's the black bear. It is very common to spot the black bears roaming behind buildings, crossing the road, or grazing in the fields. People flock to Cades Cove in hopes of seeing one of their locals tramping across the road or herding the little ones to bear school. The best time to try or spot bear are at dusk, which makes it a little difficult because it's a long drive and then you have to wait till like 4 or 5 to get there. But if you hit it just right, you will spot the most bear at that time. The bears do tend to become more active when it gets cooler. Tennessee can get really hot in the summer, so they usually hang out in the shade of the woods where you can't see them until dusk when it starts to cool down. And another time that we observed that was a really awesome time to observe all the animals in the area was during a rainstorm. Yeah, we actually were there one time and a major rainstorm swept through and we saw all kinds of animals. It was amazing. It was one of the best times we've had for footage. Now, the park does want people to be safe and careful about the bears and not encourage them. So one of the things that you might encounter when you're at the park are these kind of gross garbage cans. So these are bear-safe garbage cans, and when you look at them, this is where you got to put your garbage so that the bears aren't encouraged any more than they already seem to be to come into the campgrounds where people are. And you have to stick your hand in that thing and push the latch in to lift it up. Now, I know it's super gross, but you know what? It's there to keep everyone safe, including the bears. Though there have been very few human injuries, the bears are the ones who are paying the price, often needing to be euthanized when they become too familiar with people and can't be deterred. So please be careful with that kind of stuff. Another thing you have to be aware of is that because there's such a high population of bears in Cades Cove, it's kind of likely that you might actually encounter one on the trails. Now, this can be a little intimidating if you are on a trail, you're by yourself, there's no one else around, and all of a sudden you look up and there's a bear. This actually happened to me once, and it's really hard to not freak out a little bit when you see this and you're by yourself, but just keep calm. There's a couple things that you can do if you have an encounter and you're uncomfortable with it. Just make a lot of noise, discourage the bear from coming closer, and just keep moving once you've noticed the bear's gone on. The most important thing is don't encourage the bear or approach it to take a photo. And I know this seems stupid, but yeah, people are doing it. And this is becoming a serious problem. Some people also carry bear spray. If it makes you feel more comfortable to carry it on a trail, no judgment from me. But most of these bears have been around humans their entire lives and won't give you more than a glance. They'll look up, see you have no food, you're of no interest, and they'll move on. Safe for everyone. Just remember, don't encourage the bears to come closer to you. It's just not safe for anyone. All right, now in the other part of the park, another place that we have heard that people see the bear is in the Roaring Forks Motor Trail. I personally have never encountered them there, but maybe it's just because we've never been there during the dusk time when it's going to be the biggest opportunity to observe them. All right, now let's move on to Gatlinburg, because if you're staying in Gatlinburg, bear spottings are going to be much easier than you'd think. Probably won't even have to leave your hotel to see one on some days. Usually in the early mornings or later in the evenings, the bear can be seen walking the creeks and waterways. They are scavengers and will search out any place that smells yummy. Late at night, they become even more active. But there is one place in Gatlinburg we have encountered bear on multiple occasions, and it's actually a fairly safe place to encounter them, and that's at Anakeesta. I know, what? Anakeesta? But yeah, that's where it is. Anakeesta is a recreational area that was built up on Anakeesta Knob, the mountain right in the middle of Gatlinburg. Anakeesta has two modes of transportation to the top of their mountain, Empire, One is the chairlifts, which gives guests a spectacular view of the surrounding areas, and the other way is up the tram system that carries guests to the top along a paved road. Though you won't get as many good views from the trams, it's not as terrifying of a ride if you're afraid of heights. And while Anakeesta has amazing foods, great views, and a respectable amount of entertainment that is included in the admission, they also seem to have a major bear problem. Now, for the guests, this is awesome. Your chances of spotting a bear from the tram or the chairlift is pretty much the same, actually. And even better, you will not need to worry about being a responsible bear observer. Most of the time, you're on a bus or 20 feet high, so everyone is playing it safe. The staff, however, won't always agree with your point of view. They are required to be vigilant and will often need to use air horns to keep the locals from getting close. They can be a major nuisance for any business because bears are destructive. But if you are looking for a place to spot the bears, this is actually a really good one. Once again, though, you do have to hit the area around dusk, and that is dead on the best time, anytime in the area that you're going to see a bear. There are 2 other places in the Smoky Mountains that we have found bears, and these places, like Anakeesta, will actually charge to see your bears, since the bears are in captivity. Now, let's not be sad for these bears, because instead of euthanasia, these bears were given another choice: to sit in a comfy, cozy enclosure and enjoy the comforts of fame for the remainder of their lives, in which case can be a very long time, because bears can live up to like 30 years. So yeah, these guys are living the life. And we're going to start in Gatlinburg, of course, since Gatlinburg has so many bears, at Uber Gatlinburg. They actually have a wildlife habitat/zoo with, at this time, 4 bears enjoying the easy life. These bears were mostly all rescued as cubs and are now helping teach people about bears, of course. The oldest one is Peanut, a 22-year-old female who came from Minnesota, where she was used as in an educational outreach program until she was allowed to retire here in Gatlinburg. BJ is another older guy. He's a 17-year-old male whose mother was shot by a hunter. Unfortunately, he couldn't be rehabilitated because he was taken in by people who raised him, making it unsafe for him to be allowed to be able to go back in the wild. The other 2 are siblings, Holly and Chief, who have also become ambassadors for the bears and help educate visitors about the black bears. The last place that I'm going to point out was actually a little bit of a surprise for us. I'm sure that you have been to Pigeon Forge, and you might notice that there are a few souvenir shops who have unique offerings like live sharks, goats, and alligators. So it makes sense that someone would try for a live bear, and they did. The Three Bear General Store has done just that. Not only does this massive souvenir shop have 2 floors of affordable fun knickknacks, t-shirts, and many, many other fun souvenirs, but they also have a live bear exhibit at the top level in the back of their store. And this isn't a haggard-looking bear show where the bears are sitting in metal cages, forced to endorse countless of tourists photographing their miserable experiences. Okay, I did watch Dumbo a few times as a kid, and it left its mark. No, the owners of this place built and developed a 2-story structure with natural cave enclosures and plenty of safe viewing areas for guests to be able to get a photograph and actually observe the residents. The enclosure is a respectable size for a place that isn't a zoo, and it's clean and well maintained. The enclosure also is interactive for the bears. There's logs and places for them to climb up and water for them to splash around in. And it's also interactive for the humans as well. Here, the humans can actually feed the bears, and it's okay to do it here. It's safe because these guys, they're getting fed by humans anyway, so you might as well feed them. You can also learn a little bit more about bears. There's informative plaques around the place and other stuff that you can look at and learn about the bears. So it isn't advertised anywhere. online, I did find out that these guys have been rescued and they are not fit for rehousing, so that's why they have a home here. The store does charge a small fee for guests to access the black bear enclosures, but it was very reasonably priced. They could have easily charged way more for people to see the bear, and the tourists would have paid. But I suspect the owners just wanted to make sure that people who were coming into their shop were coming to, well, shop and not just trample through the store to look for bears. Okay, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but there are some really important things that you should be aware of if you're going bear spotting. First and foremost, and no, it's not as obvious as you think it should be, but these bears are wild animals. No matter how cute and cuddly or how passive they may appear, please, please, please do not treat them like pets. And here's the sad truth. It's because of irresponsible or uninformed tourists that every year 20 or more bears are euthanized in the Smoky Mountains alone, and the vast majority are from Gatlinburg. It is a problem when tourists don't discourage the bears and they gawk and look for photographs and they think it's cute. But the bears are learning a behavior from humans. They're learning that humans are not a threat. And then the bears start behaving in a way that is natural to them. What happens eventually is that these bears become overly aggressive. They start seeking food actively from humans. And this is when rehousing, rehoming no longer works. And these are the bears who get euthanized. And another part is that many of these bears are mama bears, and their cubs are the ones that are true victims because they no longer even have a mother to raise them. So being informed or just being aware of how your actions are perpetuating the problem is putting you in a better place to save these bears and keep them safe. I'm not going to lie, I've probably fallen into the trap myself. When we started first coming here, we were not aware of the seriousness of the issue or that our actions were causing this stuff. So that's why I'm dedicating a large amount of this video to give this information to you guys and make you aware of this problem so you don't perpetuate it as well. Just make sure that you keep these things in mind. Do not feed the bear. All right, that's a big one. I know it might sound obvious to you, but don't feed them. And yes, this has actually happened before. Don't go up to the bear and try to pet them, or even worse, try to get a picture of the bear with your children. Yes, that has actually happened. Those people were prosecuted and they were put up for child neglect, and it could have been a terrifying thing. But the thing is, these are wild animals. The key point, and I'm just going to keep reiterating this, take your photos from a car or far away. Do not encourage the bears to come closer to you, and don't approach the bears. This is just unsafe for everyone involved. Another thing I want to make sure that most of you are aware of is that if you're staying at a cabin rental or hotel in Gatlinburg or in the general area, that you remove all food and garbage from your car every night. Just last year, we made the costly mistake of thinking that a bear would leave your car alone if the windows were closed. Well, the bear made short work out of our Jeep top and cost us over $3,000 in expenses because it tore the back off of our Jeep. And they only did this for some trash at the bottom of the Jeep. So keep your car clean and be aware that incidents like this are actually pretty common in Gatlinburg. A huge step in Gatlinburg that was finally changed was that now all businesses are required to have a bear-proof garbage can for their business. And this is awesome because actually until just a few years ago, it wasn't a requirement, and it was also causing more and more issues as it goes. What that means for you as a tourist is not much. You just have to use gross garbage cans. But the ones they usually seem to have for tourists are easier to get into. They aren't like the ones in the park. Those are really gross. Another thing that has popped up due to this severity of this issue are organizations that are out there that are trying to educate and bring awareness to tourists and locals alike and help mitigate the issues that we're seeing with the bear population. If you encounter one of these organizations, please find a way to support them or just help them out. These people are there to help mostly find homes for cubs whose mothers were killed or euthanized. They also are just out there trying to make things better and safer for everyone involved. Like I said, especially the true victims, which are the bears. Everyone loves to see bears and they're so cute, but they can be a danger, and you have to just be aware of that when you're out there looking for the bears. Just think things through, that's all. And if you keep these things in mind when encountering one in the Smokies, you'll be doing the bear a huge favor, as well as yourself, because you really don't want a true encounter with a bear. That would just suck. I hope this video helps you learn more about the Smoky Mountains or helps you plan for your next zone trip. You're getting an honest review from our personal experiences, but facts and things change. So please keep us in the loop if you learned anything new and want to share your experiences in the comments. Thanks again for visiting us at Bear Facts of the Smoky Mountains. Please click that like button and subscribe to our channel.